Hey everyone, Lynn and Joseph with Marsh Properties here. I hope you are doing well, and we are here to bring you some more information on life and real estate here in the greater Charleston area. So today, super exciting topic, flood zones, right? And what we need to know if we're looking at purchasing a home in Charleston. Because if you are thinking about buying a home in the greater Charleston area, one of the most important things is to understand the risks that you may have for your property as it relates to flooding.
So in all honesty, we have been dealing with this question our entire career, and I really am glad we're doing this video because it actually breaks it down really well. Some of the stuff I've just kind of forgotten that I knew that brought back up, and I think they're good things to talk about.
Yeah.
So first, let's talk about the fact that it sounds intimidating, right? Especially if you're relocating from another area or you've never purchased a coastal property before. But in Charleston, flood zones are not something to panic about. They are something to understand clearly so you can make a smart and confident decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful coastal market, right? We have waters, we have marsh, rivers, tidal creeks, right? We have neighborhoods with large ponds, barrier islands, low-lying areas. We have a bunch of areas that are features that mean that we need to be thoughtful about what insurance is going to be required. And that's the thing that we also have to navigate, is a lot of times it's required whether or not we think we need it.
Right, and so today we're going to walk through what flood zones actually mean, why they matter, and what you should be asking before you buy a home here in Charleston.
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics. A flood zone is a geographic area, this is very scientific, identified by FEMA. They use a flood map that they draw randomly. They don't do it on a regular basis. Some of them are old. Again, we're just telling you all the things that will be frustrating because some of it won't make sense, right? But they're showing different areas of flood risk, right? They help lenders, insurance providers, local government, as well as buyers better understand the property's exposure that it has.
And here's the important part. A flood zone does not mean a property will flood. Let me repeat that. It does not mean that a property will flood. It also does not guarantee that a property will never flood.
Right.
It is simply a risk category. So instead of only asking, is this home in a flood zone, the better question is, what type of flood risk does this property have, and how could that affect my insurance monthly costs and comfortability with maintaining it throughout different seasons.
Right, which all goes back to what we say 1,000 times. It's about your risk tolerance, right? And the much stronger question, that's the much stronger question when you're buying a house here.
So high risk does not automatically mean that it's bad. So, okay, in Charleston, you're going to hear these terms AE, VE, X, shaded X, or special flood hazard area. Now that one, a special flood hazard area, generally means the property is in a higher risk area. Okay, you may also hear the phrase 100-year floodplain, which can be confusing in general.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean a flood only happens once every 100 years, right? It just means that there's a certain level of flood risk in any given year, and that risk resets every year.
Now keep in mind, we're doing a broad sweep because you know what, we're not insurance agents.
Right.
However, through the years of learning how to answer those questions and understand, like if we're helping a buyer who's looking at the seller's disclosure to understand that, we're going to point you in the direction of an insurance agent, but this is just kind of a general overview. And on the other side, the high flood risk zone does not mean that there is no flood risk. That's why we want buyers to stop and ask that question. Is flood insurance required? Because like I just gave you the list of options, that will determine yes or no, and then what the cost may be. And we need you to understand the full picture.
Yeah, and that's a good, I'll reiterate that too. This is a general information, right? If you were to be moved forward and we were working together, we would obviously partner with an insurance company and then anybody else that would need to give us more information on that, right? So also thing to kind of understand is that flood is not just always water that's coming in from the ground, right? Or the street, right? This can be coming from an ocean, right? River, creek, anything on the street. Sometimes it can be what's coming from beneath the ground.
Yeah, so I grew up in Pawleys Island, and often we'd have water come up from just hard rains because in low-lying coastal areas, the water table can be closer to the surface. It's saturated, right? So when it rains, the ground can become saturated quickly and the soil cannot absorb more water, so the water has to go somewhere. And sometimes what people describe as flooding is not just water rushing in either from the air, rain, or from the road. It can feel like it's rising from the ground up, like I told you we experienced. And so you just have to figure out is there poor drainage maybe in those saturated water table areas.
Yeah, which is why it's important during the process to get to the professionals that can help us what the conditions are as as how it behaves during these, right? What the elevation looks like, the soil conditions and everything. The home does not have to be directly on water to have flood-related issues.
That's why sometimes you will see that there's flood insurance in some areas. They get it just for peace of mind because they know that can happen even if it's not required. And that's why local knowledge matters. Two homes can look very similar online, but one may sit a little bit higher, drain better, or just have fewer water issues than another property just a few streets away.
Right, exactly. So flood zones matter for several reasons, right? They can affect whether or not your lender requires it. They'll obviously have some impact on the cost of the home ownership, future resale, right? Something to take into consideration there. And they can affect what you do with the property if you plan to renovate, expand, or rebuild, particularly if you have an elevated property.
Yeah, that last point is really important. If you're buying a home with the idea that you will renovate later, floodplain rules may become part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So this is just not about today's insurance quote, it's about the whole ownership plan. Are you buying the home exactly as it is? Are you planning that renovation? Are you thinking about future resale? Because like we started off with, a lot of people get really uncomfortable thinking about it's going to flood, right? So someone may not buy the property for that reason. That's not what we would advise, but all of those answers matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So another major piece is insurance, right? Because that's obviously going to drive what the insurance is. So a lot of buyers assume that their regular homeowner's insurance covers flooding, but insurance policy is typically a separate policy and something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and if your lender does not require it, like I said earlier, that does not automatically mean you should ignore it. It simply means you need to have a thoughtful conversation with your insurance provider about the property's specific risk. Keep in mind, insurance per year can be as little as $500 and as much as tens of thousands. So you can have a range there for peace of mind or requirement.
Yeah, and like Lynn said before, you can have two homes that have the same purchase price and actually could be close to each other, right? But different monthly ownership costs once you factor in the flood insurance that could be included in that. So the question is, can I buy the house? It's more, can I comfortably own the house?
Yeah, and another term that buyers may hear is an elevation certificate. So let's talk about what that is. It is a document that shows important elevation information about a property, including how the structure sits in relation to those expected flood levels.
Yep, exactly. In plain English, it helps us know high or low the home is compared to certain areas, and then again, the risk measurements, right? And that we have to, that matters obviously for insurance, and then what your tolerance is for the risk.
And not every property is going to have an elevation certificate readily available, and not every buyer will need one in the exact same way. But if you're buying in a flood-prone area, it is absolutely worth asking whether an elevation certificate exists. And we often laugh when I have clients ask me, is this in a flood zone? And I said, if you're buying in Charleston, yes.
Right.
So you just have to know that some areas have certain things that make them really special, where our coast makes us really special, but it comes with those parameters to think about.
Yeah, and one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is relying on only one source, which is why we partner with the professionals and the experts in this area, right? So you may look at a listing or check an online map, hear that its flood insurance is not required, but we want buyers to be fully informed and layer that information together.
Yeah, that means, you can go do your research looking at the FEMA flood, asking about the flood zone, all those things. At the end of the day, we're going to keep going back to an insurance agent. We're going to put you in touch with the right expert to review the seller disclosure, to review the parcel map so they can compare it where it is. And all those things we've talked about, where it sits on the lot, drainage ditches, ponds, are you across the street from a body of water? What does heavy rain do to the property? All those things just you can ask and find out, hopefully, from the seller.
Yeah, that local context matters because flood maps are important, but they don't always go through what happens on the entire story on everyday drainage, like Lynn said. So questions to ask.
All right, here are the questions. Before buying a home in Charleston, here's some of those good ones. What flood zone is the property in? Is flood insurance required? And I always say, does the seller currently have one? Because you may just take their lead, right? And say, okay, that's good peace of mind. Is there an elevation certificate that helps dictate a little bit about what those classifications will be?
Right.
Did the seller disclose any past flooding or water intrusion? Are there any known drainage issues on the street or in the neighborhood? And then lastly, what is it going to cost?
Yeah, and if you're planning improvements, again, like we said, will the renovation trigger any additional flood requirements or insurance requirements something to keep in mind? Could that affect your insurance? And should you speak with a contractor or architect? That's always going to be a yes, because if you are planning on doing it, you want to obviously bring in the professionals and the experts in those areas.
One thing to keep in mind is there are a lot of homes in Charleston that were built maybe before they got more strict on regulations, and there are actually enclosed square footage areas that may not be insured because of the fact that the flooding has those different parameters. So we're going to do that research as well, depending on if it's in there, and then there's enclosed square footage right on the ground if it's raised.
Yeah.
So these questions are not meant to create fear.
Yeah.
We always say knowledge is power.
Right.
So once you know, it helps you get clarity. We have a video where we talk about how and the smartest way to invest in Charleston. This is one of the bigger questions there.
Yeah, 100%. And flood risk matters also because one day you're going to be the seller, right? Future buyers will likely ask you the same questions, right? So knowing all this information, the costs and everything, those are things that you want to keep in mind as you're looking to be a future seller.
All right, so when we help buyers evaluate a property, we're not just thinking about today, we're thinking about the future, and we're creating that long-term plan so that they know. We talked about exit strategy. So if you do have intentions to eventually sell the property, you just know what you're maintaining throughout, and you need experts involved, real estate agents, someone with your financing, and then of course your insurance agent.
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal is not to scare anyone away,
Right.
right? Like you said, it's not fear on this. The goal is to help you understand what you're purchasing and the best ways to approach that and get the information you need.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of where you're going to hopefully buy a property. It's right here in this coastal area.
Yep.
And we do have hurricanes and we have other things that come through, but when you understand it, that's when you can make a better decision that's strong and not fear-based.
100%. So if you have any questions about this, if you are thinking of buying or selling in Charleston or the greater Charleston area, please let us know. We'd be happy to help.
Thank you. Hope to see y'all soon.
Bye.